Good afternoon and welcome to Fast Horses Today. Today is Sunday. It is May 18th and Santa Anita has a pick six carryover, which it seems like this has been happening quite often. There have been several carryovers at Santa Anita over the last couple of weeks. So, I did some studying and I was, looking into the pick six, and again, I can't find a manageable ticket today to play, so I'm not going to play the pick six. But what I am going to do, which I've called this to kind of the hidden gem, is the days when they've had their pick six carryovers, they certainly get the big pulls in the pick six, but that late pick five also gets big pulls because you figure people come in and play the pick six. If they're out of it after the first leg, they're going to come in and just pour money into that pick five. So it's been happening, and I kind of like the way that's gone, and I'm going to go with the late pick five today, which does start in the pick six starts in the fifth race. So good luck if you're going to be playing there. And the late pick five starts in the sixth race. And the sixth race has an approximate post time of 3:38 Pacific time. So that's 5:38 here in the Central Time Zone. So let's get started. So the sixth race is a starter allowance race. It's 6.5 on the grass, and that's the flat grass course. And this is horses who have started for $25,000 or less, or if your horse doesn't qualify there, you could put your horse in for $32,000. So those two qualifiers certainly came into play to form this race. Very interesting, how that worked out today. So I'm going to put 3 horses in this race, and I'm going to go against what I think is going to be the favorite, and I'll tell you why. But let's start here. I'm going to go with the one horse who is Regal Patriot for Steve Knapp and Tiago Pereira. Now, Knapp just claimed this horse off his last race, which was just an outstanding race. He ended up claiming this horse off of Tim McKenna. And McKenna had this horse really ready to go on the turf and running a huge race in a $25,000 condition claiming race here on this Santa Anita turf course. The horse ran a huge buyer figure, showed a ton of speed, finished up nicely. We'll see. It looks to me like Knapp might have gotten a nice claim here. So Knapp gets the benefit of being able to put this horse in for the starter conditions. So he gets to run this horse here and be protected from a claim because the horse does fit that 25,000 category. I feel like this horse can come back and run a very similar race, and that would be certainly good enough to win this. It looks to me like, Tim McKenna dropped the horse into the right spot. Maybe he figured nobody was going to claim the horse, but, he ended up, losing out on that deal. This horse does have some back class, has run against some nice horses up north, and, does have shows a good turf record as well, being, one win out of 3 starts, and that one win coming at Santa Anita, as I mentioned. So we'll, put Regal Patriot here, and, the thought that this horse might repeat his last race. At 7-2, we'll put this horse in. Going to also put the 3 horse who is Doncic for Vladimir Serene, and Juan Hernandez takes the call again. Now, Serene, this is a reclaim for Serene. Serene had this horse, pretty much his entire career. Horse ended up getting claimed off of him back in February. It was Peter Urton that claimed the horse off him for $25,000. He subsequently, put that horse into a starter late race, which was, pretty much the same level here. The horse didn't show up, didn't do much there. They put the horse back in for a claim at 32. I thought the horse ran a nice race that day, getting beat by, What Makes Sammy Run, which we'll talk about Sammy momentarily. I recall liking this horse. He was 13-1 that day. He ran a big race with Juan Hernandez and ended up getting beat on the wire by What Makes Sammy Run. Certainly no shame in that. After the claim, Serene gets to put this horse in for a starter allowance, so he gets his horse protected. This horse is 4-1. I think Hernandez, seems to have ridden this horse well. Probably will duplicate that. I'm going to put Doncic in here. I'm also going to put the 4 What Makes Sammy Run, which I mentioned. This horse has been knocking around in and around this level on the turf, and just shows up every time. He's got a couple wins already this season, both on the grass at Santa Anita on the flat grass course. This horse certainly likes the distances of 6 furlongs, 6.5 furlongs on the flat, has done well with that. Comes off a win last time, as I mentioned. He beat Doncic. Sammy was the favorite that day. This is your old timer who, at one time, Sammy would be running with, higher caliber horses, but, he's at this level now, but shows up and is a nice horse. Certainly one that, you root for. You like this 7-year-old gelding because he just seems to show up every time. He's 3-1. We'll put him in to start this pick 5. So I've got the 1, 3, and the 4. I am going to go against the 6 horse who is Sharp as Attack for Jeff Mullins. Hector Barrios on the horse. This horse is 5-2, which I suspect this horse will end up being the favorite. It looks to me like, Mullins probably, got stuck with the hot potato here. This horse, had been pretty popular in the claim box last year. Ended up getting claimed off of O'Neill for 50, and then Phil D'Amato put this horse in for 80, a non-winner of two 80,000 claim. Horse ended up getting claimed by Mullins, and it looks like he got stuck with a hot potato because, it took a long time for this horse to get back to the races. He ended up running in a second level allowance race, which is, much stronger here, but the horse didn't do much there, and now they're dropping the bottom here and putting this horse in for 32. So I'm going to go against this horse. If I'm correct, it'll look like a great move. If this horse does have life, well, then it won't be. But we'll go against there. So I've got the 1, 3, and the 4, and the 6 to start off this pick 5. All right, now let's go to the 7th race of the day. 7th race is a California bred allowance, first level allowance race, with the option to claim for 20 on some of these. 6 furlongs on the dirt. I've got 3 horses here I'm going to put in. I'm going to put the 4, who is Devil Among Us, for Doug O'Neill, Edwin Maldonado. These guys teamed up for a win at this same level back in January. The horse ran an outstanding race with a huge speed figure. Ran just a really nice race after, having been in and around, right there on the wire in these 6 furlong races at this California allowance level. Horse had a little bit of a break, came back out in late March, ended up running in an open allowance company race. That race ended up being a much tougher field. He took the lead and then just kind of fell apart after that. So, they're putting this horse back in with Calbreds. He's got to go for the 20,000 claim, because he has won at this distance before. Don't see it as a panic drop since it looks like, O'Neill did claim this horse for 20 back last fall. It looks like O'Neill and the connections did do well with this claim. This horse has several in the money finishes and a win at the allowance level. They're putting this horse back in, getting realistic. And again, Doug O'Neill, we've talked about this. His his start to this spring meeting has been kind of cold. So I'm sure just O'Neill's trying to figure out where to place horses to get that win total back up there. So this horse is 3-1, certainly no secret. We'll put Devil Among Us in here. I'm going to put the 5 horse who is Supernal for Steve Knapp. This horse also Calbred, has won at this condition. So this horse is in for the $20,000 claim, to be able to get in. The horse shows a nice race back in mid-March with a big win at this level. Nice speed figure. Last time the horse ran a nice race, it was a $25,000 open claimer. It was the Steve Knapp pair that came first and second. He got beat by Jerry Spirit, who Jerry Spirit's a nice horse. Has had a nice meet here at Santa Anita, or, over the 2 meets. It just seemed like maybe Jerry Spirit, it's like when he shows up, he's ready to go, and then, he ends up getting scratched as well, which I think he got scratched out of a race yesterday or Friday, I'm not sure. But anyway, Supernal ran a nice race there, second to Jerry Spirit. He's 5-2 in the program. Certainly no secret there. We'll put him in there. And then finally, I'll put the 7 in. 7 being Piper's Causeway for Jose Aranga. Or I'm sorry, Jesus Aranga. My mistake there. Jesus Aranga, trainer. Aranga is a pretty nice trainer. He gets limited starters, but he certainly does well with the stock that he has. This horse is 9-2 in the program, and Aguilar is on the horse. Now this horse, has kind of made a lot of his starts over at Los Alamitos, running in the nighttime races and those dirt sprints, and showing up and doing well, in some of those tough sprints that they have there. When they brought this horse over to Santa Anita, the horses showed up well as well, but seems like lately they've been putting this horse in for turf races. I'm not sure if that was, intended, or if those were just the races that were, available in these, first level California races. So anyway, it looks like this horse gets a shot to sprint on the dirt, which, he should be able to do that at 9-2. So Piper's Causeway could be dangerous here. We'll see if he gets some action and gets bet on. But I've got the 4, 5, and 7 in the 7th race. All right, now let's go over to the 8th race of the day. 8th race is a maiden $50,000 claiming race, a mile on the grass, and these are 3-year-olds and up. A good mixture of horses who have been running at this level, at this 50,000 claim level, knocking around there. Some horses dropping into this level, to create a pretty good field of horses. I've got a single here, and I'm gonna just hinge my ticket on this single here. If you look at this horse, it's the 8 horse Nation. You see familiar connections here. Michael McCarthy, Eclipse Thoroughbred Stables, Umberto Rispoli. This horse is 9-5 in the program. Those connections sound familiar. Yep, those were your connections that brought you the Preakness winner in journalism. So, these guys come back, after a very roughly run race of the Preakness. Congratulations to the folks. Congratulations to journalism for running an awesome race. What a nice horse he is. So these guys all pair up here for this horse in a maiden 50,000 claimer. 9-5 in the program. I see every reason why this horse should be the favorite. This horse had been running in special weights, running some nice races, and they're just I don't know that this is a give up. I mean, it certainly would be a give up, because you can claim this horse now for 50. Maybe it's just the kind of thing where you don't really see Eclipse Thoroughbred partners in the claiming game. So, maybe it's the kind of thing where nice horse, but, they're moving on to other things. And, I would suspect this horse would be popular in the claim box, as well. But I think Nation should be good enough here in this race. He's run well over the turf. And, he shows a couple nice dirt starts here at Santa Anita. They're moving this horse back over to the turf, which should be no problem here. He's run on it. He's run okay on it. 9-5, he's worth a single for me on my ticket here, that being in the 8th race. All right, let's go to the 9th race. 9th race, this is a Northern California style race. This is a mile on the dirt, $5,000 claiming horses who have, been stabled up there up north, or if you've run for 62.50 in your last couple starts, you could run in this race as well. So that opens it up to some possible Los Alamitos shippers, or horses that have run for that level. So tough race. It's kind of a wide open thing here. I'm going to put 4 horses in, hoping one of these 4 will get the pick 5 advanced. I'm going to put the 2 Adios Nicanor for Jose Bautista and Cristobal Herrera. Now Cristobal Herrera, he's had a tough year, and Herrera's a guy who I know had won races up north, and he's been riding this horse in his last several starts, several in the money finishes, and did get a win out of this horse. This horse by Idiot Proof, we're going to see a quick question if this horse would want to go the mile distance, but I think this horse's running style, he can get a nice position, and a lot of times these mile races on the dirt, you've got these bottom rung level horses. It's almost like you got to give them a good trip, give them the least amount to do, and hopefully they finish up for you. So I'm hoping that Adios Nicanor could be in that nice, comfortable trip and finish up. 5-1, we'll put him in here. We're going to put Super Mazel in. Super Mazel from the Isidro Tamayo barn. Ayuso takes the call. This horse has been running in this level of race, these $5,000 races at Santa Anita, and showing up and doing a nice job. He won one of these back in late March. Last time out, he was a big favorite that day at 3-2. He kind of stumbled out of the gate, which really hurt his chances and really just kind of ended the day for him. So, they took the apprentice Arantes off the horse and put Ayuso on. Now, Ayuso, nothing against Arantes, but Ayuso is certainly, a more accomplished rider and done some really nice work here at Santa Anita this year. So, Super Mazel, 7-2, certainly worthwhile to put in the pick 5 here, so I'm going to put him in. I'm going to put the 8 being Union Wave. Union Wave comes off, off the claim for Librado Baraccio. So Baraccio claimed this horse off of Tim Balasas last time. And, the horse, I don't know. The race he got claimed out of, he didn't do much there. But, Baraccio's a pretty good trainer, does pretty well off the claim as well. He puts Anton Giorgi on the horse. Anton Giorgi's done a nice job with these level races as well. So we're going to see if Anton Giorgi, there's not an abundance of speed in this race. So if this horse is right, has, some ability left in him, I think this horse can get out to the lead, and, they can take him the distance. It does happen in these races. 6-1, we'll put Union Wave in here. I'll trust in Librado Baraccio that he got this horse right off the claim. That's the 8 horse. And then finally, I'll put the favorite in, who is the 9, Brother O'Brien for Jeff Mullins and Juan Hernandez. This horse is 5-2 in the program. He's been in these last couple, his last couple starts been in this $5,000 level. I'm just going to put this horse in. I'm not going to, speak too highly of this horse or, discount this horse. I'll just put him in. Don't want to get knocked out by this horse if he decides to run today. So in the pick 5, I've got the 2, 3, 8, and 9. All right, now let's move over to the last race of the day. Last race of the day is the 10th race of the day. This is 6.5 on the turf, and it's the flat grass course there. It's maiden special weights. These are 3-year-old fillies. 3-year-olds and up fillies and mares. And, I've really studied these maiden special weight ranks here at Santa Anita and the fillies and mares division. And there's been some nice horses, seems, in the population there at Santa Anita. But also it's very competitive, and it's really, tough to, just single in on any horses in this level. It seems like these horses run nice races, but they beat each other, and makes it very competitive. So, as a multi-race player, I'm going to end up putting 6 horses in this race, because I don't know that it's as simple as putting that favorite in, and, certainly can get beat, as we've seen these things happen before. And, we'll just see. I like to have, a live pick 5 ticket here, maybe hit that single earlier, and then have 6 horses in coverage. We do see chaos in these last races of the day at Santa Anita. So I'm expecting possibly some chaos here. So I'm going to put the 1, Madonna of Loreto. That would be a Phil D'Amato trainee. Antonio Fresu takes the call. This horse coming off a long layoff. We saw this horse twice at Del Mar as a 2-year-old. She ran in a 5 furlong grass race, ran just kind of nice, even race there. They put this horse in a stakes race. She ran a nice race, running up against Thought Process and Super Speed, Sea Runner. Those are some nice horses they were last year. So we'll see. Coming off a long layoff, she's 9-2 here. Fresu takes the call again. Could be live here. We'll put the 1 horse Madonna of Loreto. I'm going to put the 2 horse. 2 horse being She's the Law for Mark Glatt, Tiago Pereira. This horse is 6-1 in the program. Now, this horse also comes off a layoff. Last time we saw her, she was in a race there at Santa Anita in October. So this horse, she's a 4-year-old, so she's been running in these maiden special races, in her entire career. She's got 8 starts, 3 seconds. Off a layoff here, we'll see if she's fresh. She could end up getting a nice trip. This horse was a nice purchase price, $385,000 horse out of by Constitution, so certainly some class there. We'll see. Glatt certainly can get horses ready off a layoff. We'll see if she's ready here. That's the 2 horse. She's the Law at 6-1. Going to put the 3 horse, Unti for Michael McCarthy. And again, we've got some familiar connections, McCarthy and Eclipse Thoroughbreds. They put Kyle Frey on the horse here. Now, this horse did have 1 start in her career. She's a nice purchase price as well. Another $385,000 horse by Uncle Mo, a Franco mare. So certainly, turf breeding, no problem there. This horse had 1 start. Didn't get out too well. Just kind of ran an even race. So we'll give this horse a chance. Second start out, 5-1 with Kyle Frey. Going to put the 7 horse, who is Storm Lady, for Carla Gaines and Hector Barrios. Now, this horse had run twice off, shipping out from England. So this horse, came from Europe. Usually when they come from Europe, you don't know if they're ready or not. Carla Gaines usually takes her time with horses, it seems, and runs them into shape. So this horse first start out, Frankie Dettori kind of pushed this horse out, tried to get, some position off a rail run there on a 6 furlong grass race. I thought the horse ran nicely early on, and they just kind of packed it in. I won't fault her there in her first start. She followed that up with another nice effort, I thought. An improved effort in another 6 furlong grass race. And, the horse just kind of ran a nice even race there, and had a little bit of traffic trouble. I wouldn't say it cost for the race or anything. But again, Carla Gaines' horses, I think, kind of run themselves into shape. I could see her really doing well third start off that layoff there and off the ship from Europe. She's 8-1 with Hector Barrios. We've seen Hector Barrios do a lot of great work on the turf at Santa Anita. So the 7 horse Storm Lady at 8-1, certainly worth putting in. We'll put the 9 horse, who is Sunglow, for John Sadler, Juan Hernandez. This horse has run twice, also off the ship in from Europe. This horse came from Ireland, ran at the Curragh, some nice races. So this horse has been a short price in her races. She ran 3rd to Kento Della Terra, who's a nice horse, and also Robin with a Y, probably break her maiden soon. Then she came out of that race with Velocity and Halston Rose. She came 3rd to them. So this horse has had, 2 nice efforts. Certainly could be there, but also, as I mentioned, the start of talking about this race, these, Philly maiden special weight races are pretty open. These horses do get beat. So we'll put Sunglow in. She's 9-5, but certainly could get beat here. And then finally, I'm going to put the 12 horse, who does draw in. That's the horse Venalia. Venalia for Phil D'Amato, and Umberto Rispoli takes the call. This horse has had 2 starts in her career. She started back in March, mid-March, running a kind of an even race in her first start out. Not a bad race there. Followed that up with another even start. She was a favorite that day. I think she ended up getting bet down because her first race, she had a bit of a tough break and ended up running on. So that usually, causes people to overbet. She ended up being a favorite her last time. Just kind of ran an even race there. A little bit of traffic trouble. I think she could certainly improve off that. She'll be coming out of the 12 hole and the 6.5 on the flat. Certainly could be dangerous there. So we've got the 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, and 12. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the ticket. Okay, so for Sunday, May 18th, we've got the late pick 5, which starts in the 6th race. We're going to start that out with the 1, 3, 4. With the 4, 5, 7. With the 8. With the 2, 3, 8, 9. With the 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 12. Now today, this pick 5 ticket is $108. So we're really putting everything on the single in the 8th race, the 8 Nation. I think if that horse gets it done, I think we'll get this pick 5 rolling. So hopefully you can beat some favorites and get a nice price here. So as always, If you see fit, you can play as is. If you want to add or subtract, if you want to play the pick 3s within it, play the pick 4, that late pick 3, the turf pick 3, whatever you decide to do, I wish you the best of luck today. Let's wish ourselves some good trips, and that'll result in some good results and good luck for us today. Let's wish the folks over at Santa Anita, I wish the folks over at Santa Anita a very safe day of racing today. So again, I do thank you so much for watching Fast Horses today. If you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button for me. Would appreciate that. It doesn't cost you anything. It just joins you into the audience. When new content gets created, it gets served up to you. Thanks to those who have subscribed. I do appreciate you. You can like, dislike, make comments. Let's create a discussion. And let's finish off this week strongly over at Santa Anita on this Pick 6 carryover day. Thank you.